Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Kalwas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker, who is going to talk about outcome-based education and constructive alignment. In today's session, we will explore the foundation and principles of these two approaches to learning and teaching and discuss how they can be applied in various educational settings. With the increasing emphasis on the learning outcomes and competencies in education, it is essential to understand the concept of OBE and CA and their practical implications for the curriculum design, assessment, and instruction. So you will get the best insights about all these information and knowledge because we have an expert with us in today's this session. So stay tuned because in amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. So before we start, I would like to thank Kalwas for arranging such enlightenment sessions for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Kalwas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world-renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to share their views, experiences, and tips which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually as well as to contribute to the world as at large. As our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have a very special person as guest. She's an internationally known personality with a vast and wonderful experiences. We always see her while contributing to the field and world in a different ways, and she is always ready to share her knowledge. So let me introduce her formally. She is an associate professor at the Department of Communication School of Arts, Sunway University, Malaysia. She holds a PhD in educational research from Lancaster University, United Kingdom, a master degree in communication studies from the Sheffield Hallam University, United Kingdom, and a bachelor degree in measuring the media studies from University of Malaya, Malaysia. She has more than 22 years of experience in teaching and research in higher education. Moreover, she has published extensively in local as well as in international peer-reviewed index journals, as well as presented at local and international conferences. In addition to that, she is a member of panel assessor for Malaysian Qualification Agency (MQA) and certified trainer for from HRD Malaysian Corporation. She served as a member of international, regional, and local professional associations. She is a reviewer of numerous prestigious international and regional Scopus Index Journal and a workshops instructor for outcome-based education and constructive alignment. Her research interests include social media, mobile technologies, public relations, technology enhanced learning, organizational communication, sustainable communication, and human capital development. Last but not the least, she's a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest, Dr. Cheng Ean Lee. Welcome to the Calvas platform, and thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Haider Shah. Thank you for this invitation. So I'm glad that I'm able to contribute. Hopefully, this session will able to benefit our participants or the viewers and also students and educators as well. So
Yeah,
thank you so
thank
much
you.
again, and let me start.
Yeah, thank you very much, and it's really a pleasure to have you with us. So over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you so much for the kind introduction. And I would like to share with you today about outcome-based education, OBE, and also constructive alignment. So what am I going to share today is a short introduction about this topic and why is it important for educators and also for students in the institution of higher education to know about these concepts of OBE and CA. So next, I will also give the definitions and the key principles of OBE and CA, including the introduction of the MQF 2.0, which is Malaysian Qualification Frameworks, which talk about the learning outcome clusters and domains. And before I end, I will also briefly share the benefits of understanding OBE or CA and its application for learners and educators. So without further ado, let me start off today's sessions. So I think I don't have to tell you more about myself. Prof have already highlighted. I am partly a panel member for assessor for Malaysian Qualification Agency (MQA), which all higher education in Malaysia would needs to get the accreditation from, and also giving workshop about outcome-based education and constructive alignment. I'm from Sunway University, Malaysia. I teach public relation courses, communication courses, and these are some of my credentials. Okay, let me begin to show you about the learning outcome from today's short session. So since I'll be talking about outcome-based education, so I would like to highlight what are the 3 learning outcomes from today's session. So upon completion of this webinar, participants are able to define outcome-based education, in short, OBE, and also constructive alignment, CA, and its key principles. The second learning outcome will look into how the students are able to benefit from OBE and CA. And finally, from this session, hopefully our participants who are from students and also educators are able to apply this concept in the teaching and learning practices in higher education, whether it's in Malaysia or abroad. So by giving these 3 learning outcomes, all of us are able to be guided that the session will be talking about OBE and CA, as well as the principles and the benefits, as well as the application of it in the teaching and learning scenarios or practices in the higher education context. So let me begin with the introduction on OBE and CA. These 2 approaches are commonly used in education, and specifically are using it for enhancing learning outcomes of students. So what is actually OBE? OBE is an approach that focuses on learning outcomes of the students. Instead of just looking into the input or the process of gaining education, OBE enhances the students' learning outcome and focuses on what is able to be done by the students at the end of their classes. So by designing learning outcome, next, the educators are able to align their teaching and assessment strategies to these outcomes. The educators or lecturers or teachers can ensure that the students and learners are able to achieve the desired learning outcomes that they have designed. And this approach of focusing on learning outcomes are beneficial for students as well as educators. So students are able to see a clear path in achieving what are their learning goals. So instead of them just coming in for classes, whether it's online or in person, by understanding the use of OBE by the lecturers, the students are able to see their directions. They are able to understand and align what they're supposed to do in their classes in order to achieve their goals. And OBE is also beneficial for educators like ourselves because they can evaluate their effectiveness of teaching strategies. So we are able to review and align our way of delivery of our classes as well as the design of assessments. Both teaching strategies and assessments design can achieve the learning outcome for the students. So let me go on to give you a brief understanding of the education system. So we have seen there's a lot of changes in education context. So we can see in this image over here that there is traditional education versus the modern education. So what is our traditional method of education is mostly teacher-centered. Teachers will decide what to teach in class, and the knowledge that is delivered to the learners are subject specific. And the way of delivery is usually one way to teach, to enable students to gain knowledge and to learn from the teachers. So this kind of education is more of very passive, which rely a lot on the teacher, and they have limited engagement and limited exploration from the learners. Therefore, you can see traditional education focuses on theoretical aspects, which based on process and using tests and exams, which require memorizations and remembering in order to show that the education has taken place. But in the modern education, especially in this 21st century, the focus of education is not so much on the process of gaining specific subject knowledge or emphasizing on the importance of the teacher or the lecturer. It is more based on learner-centered. The skills that they learn or the knowledge that they learned by the students are not just theoretical, it also includes practicality. It also involves skills such as using cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So with this new modern education, with the principles of outcome-based education, the focus is based on outcome, which requires the learners to be interactive and engaging with the lecturers or the supplier or the source of knowledge. And the learners are able to gain multiple ways to get knowledge, and even there are different ways of transferring the knowledge to the learners. So from this context of traditional versus modern, what we are facing right now is we're trying to put more innovative in creating more interactive, engaged learning experiential for the students. So OBE, which is outcome-based, involve the knowledge that is subject-specific knowledge as well as skill-based knowledge, and is based on cognitively, where you test them using some exams and also exam-based coursework. But we also assess our students not just what they learn through what they understand, knowledge and skills, but what about their heart, the values, and also the psychomotor. Next, we move on to see more about the Malaysian national education philosophy. So because I'm based in Malaysia, I extract this information from the Ministry of Education. Education in Malaysia is an ongoing effort towards developing the potential of the individuals. And I believe most national education philosophy in most countries have the same aim, which we aim to further develop our potential leaders, our citizens, the individuals in a holistic and integrated manner. This is to enhance the learning experiences as well as producing our individuals who, after graduating from the university or tertiary education, they are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced. And this could create more harmonious situation with a firm belief in devotion to God. So this effort is designed to produce Malaysian citizens who are not just knowledgeable and competent, it also possesses high moral standards, values, and responsible, capable of achieving high level of personal well-being, contribute to the harmony and the betterment of the family, society, and the nation at large. So this is the whole philosophy of the national education in Malaysia. We look at 4 areas: intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. So this serves as the basis for all the education efforts that has been done in Malaysia. And the concept of OBE also derived from this philosophy. Next, we move on to defining OBE. Outcome-based education, as according to the Malaysian Qualification Agency, defined this OBE concept in 2013 as an approach to education that begins with clearly focusing on high quality, culminating demonstration of significant learning in context, and also organizing everything within an educational system which are essential for all students to be able to do it successfully at the end of their learning experiences. This could mean a particular course or a particular program. So OBE begin with students and educators having a clear picture of what is important to be able to achieve by the learners or students. And the educators will then organize the curriculum, the syllabus, the course content, as well as the instruction, which is the delivery of the class, the imparting of the knowledge and skills, as well as the setting of assessment to ensure a learning or a real learning process happens for all students. So by this definition, we can see the key points of OBE is what is important for students to be able to do, not what they learn from classes, what topics they cover, but what can they what can they achieve as an outcome, which can be done through classes, instructions by the lecturers, and also assessment to begin with. So we also have the definition of constructive alignment, which go hand by hand with OBE. So CA, or constructive alignment, was a term created in 1996 by John Biggs. So constructive alignment is an approach for curriculum design where teaching and learning activities are maximizing the learning of the students. So it's not so much of what you are teaching, but it's what the students can learn from the educators. So the design of activities in the classrooms and out of classroom is for maximizing learning for the students so that the students are able to engage and activate the verbs that has been designed and specified in the learning outcomes for the course or for the program. So the students are required to construct their own knowledge. Okay, it's not so much of just absorbing, but it's more of engaging and make meanings of what they learn. So they are able to use what they have gone through in the classroom as to complete the assessment task that's given to them. And this is called a full alignment or constructive alignment of three matters. One is the course content, which is the syllabus. Second is the delivery of the lecturers in classes, out of classes, or even other ways of gaining or transferring knowledge to the students, and the assessments. The assessment with an appropriate marking rubrics are relevant and important to show how the learning outcome is attained. So curriculum is something that is required a full alignment between the setting of the content, the learning outcome, and the delivery to achieve the outcome through assessments. So the students to construct and structure their understanding, make meanings of what they learn in class, and this environment set up by the educators or teachers will allow students to meaningfully engage with the learning outcome, to let them know how they are able to perform in order to achieve the outcomes. So this definition again will highlight the importance of curriculum design by the lecturers, providing a maximized learning experience to the students. Now, what about the key principles of understanding both concept of OBE and CA? So I'm sharing with you 7 key principles. These 7 principles basically shows the importance of understanding learning outcomes, which is clarity of learning outcomes. Educators need to clearly define, specifically describe in the statement of what the learners are expected to know, to understand, and to act on when they complete a particular course or program. Importantly, if the learning outcomes is not clearly specified or described, learners as well as educators were not able to take advantage of it in order to, besides learning the knowledge and skills, they are also able to construct their own learning and complete the assessment. Second principles about OBE is a close alignment between learning outcomes or LOs in short, between LOs, assessments, and also teaching and learning strategies. The assignments that is being designed is to ensure to measure the extent of the learners able to achieve the desired learning outcomes, as well as how close the instructional strategies done by the lecturers are aligned with both the learning outcome and assessments. So alignment is the key concept of OBE. The third key principles for OBE is it is competency based. We can see earlier that the traditional education is teacher centered as well as very specific knowledge transfer to the students. But for OBE, as the new modern education system, is to base on the competency and skills that is required by the learners to gain when they are in the university or colleges in order to demonstrate what they can do later on when they are out in the industry. This competency and skills are those required by their future employers, and it is from the industry that sets what the graduates are supposed to able to do to show what they know through their learning in higher education. So the three key principles that I'm sharing right now on this screen is the clarity of learning outcomes, a close alignment between learning outcome assessments as well as the instructional strategies, and the focus is on development of learners' competency and skills. The remaining four key principles are as follows. The new modern education system, which takes the concept of OBE, are student-centered. The student-centered over here meaning that the teaching and the learning focuses on the learners, their needs, and their interests. Learners themselves has to be an active participants in the learning process, and they have to take responsibility of their own learning. It's not so much of what you teach them, it's about how much they want to learn. So student-centered focus on the needs and interests of the learners as active participants in education system or in the education process. The next key principles look at continuous improvement. Curriculum design is not carved in stone. It's not that when you design a new program, it will be there forever. In a modern education system, we need to continuously improve the curriculum in terms of the content as well as the teaching and learning processes and assessments. The continuous improvement is an ongoing process. By looking at the reflection and evaluation from the students and the educators on the syllabus, its assessments, we can see enhancement and improvement to be made. For example, learning outcomes and assessment can be regularly reviewed and revised in order to maintain its relevance and meaningful to the learners. It's also to suit to the industry requirement. So there is no way that one curriculum is designed and then it will be that's all. There will be continuously making improvement. Can learning outcome be revised and changed? Yes, that is possible. So all assessments and learning outcomes can be changed and revised to maintain relevancy and meaningful. Next key principles look at assessment. The assessment designed by the educators for the learners has to be authentic. What is the meaning of authentic assessment? The design of the assessments have to be relevant and meaningful to the learners. We do not want to create assessment tasks which is impossible to be completed by the learners, and we do not want to create assessment that is a mock and non-relation to the real world problems. And authentic assessment will have to tie to the real world situations, which allow the learners to demonstrate their skills and knowledge in a practical context. So authentic, relevant, and meaningful assessment is key principles for OBE. Finally, flexibility is another principle that is needed in OBE. Teaching and assessment methods has to have certain leeways that educators are able to adapt their own strategies and their own style. You know, every professors, every educators have their own delivery and their way of teaching. So the design of the curriculum in terms of their teaching or instructional strategies and assessment methods are able to be suitable for the educators as well as to meet the needs of the individual learners. We know as educators that every semester, every year, we meet with different cohort of learners, which actually have different characteristics and their needs and interests. Therefore, be flexible in your design for your curriculum will ensure that your desired learning outcomes that you put before a course is delivered or a program is launched is able to be achieved by the learners. Learners are able to fulfill their needs and interests. Lecturers are able to ensure that the learning outcomes are attained. So after looking at the definitions of OBE and CA, as well as the key principles, now let's proceed to the next part of it, which will conclude the key principles and definitions so that the first learning outcome of this webinar can be attained. The principles of OBE here is designed for promoting student learning and ensuring learners have the skills and competencies needed to succeed in the real world. So by aligning these learning outcomes, the teaching strategies, and the assessment methods, we are ensuring a constructive alignment which make learning experience relevant, meaningful, and effective for our learners. A reminder for educators like us, OBE is not what we want to teach. It is what they as learners want to learn. So OBE involves flexibility as well as continuous improvement, which involve restructuring, reconstructing curriculum, assessment methods, and reporting practices in education to reflect the achievement of outcomes, as well as a policy or a system to document intended results. These intended results will be measured and monitored to take action that can improve the curriculum as real learning can happen for the students. Therefore, there is a process in OBE which require educators to continually making quality improvement to the courses that they teach, as well as to the programs that the students are able to graduate with. Next, we look into the OBE process in this graphical presentation. So there are 4 processes. We look at planning stage, developing stage, implementing stage, and evaluation stage. So since I make a short summary just now about the definitions and key principles, the OBE process starts in the beginning by setting the PEOs and PLOs. So don't worry about the acronyms. PEO stands for Program Educational Objective. This is the aim of the program when it's launched. It is to tell our stakeholder, involve the learners, the parents, the employers, the community, or even the authority, that this program is able to deliver what it promises it has to the stakeholders. From the PEO, which is the Program Educational Objective, then the program designer will design the learning outcomes called the Program Learning Outcomes. And this design of PEOs and PLOs are based on the program standard for different disciplines. Next, after determining the learning outcome and also the educational objective, at the developing stage, it is where all individual educators or lecturers will design their own course learning outcome, which is CLO. So CLO is designed in the beginning, and we work backward to design our teaching and learning strategies, which we call them as instructional strategies, and also the design of assessment methods and the marking rubrics to ensure what the students are able to see their performance and their action of what they do after completing a particular course. The third stage in the implementation part is to run out this course by gathering and documenting evidence. So this can be through formative assessment, which is done in the classroom, where the lecturers are able to gauge how is the progress and whether the learners are in the correct directions of achieving the learning outcomes. It also involves documenting teaching plan, marking schemes, and also students' portfolio. And this all can be done through their assessment methods under summative assessments. So this evidence will be documented for evaluation as the final stage of OBE process, where the educators are evaluate the outcome and the attainment of the learning outcomes and the program learning outcome, the course learning outcome and the program learning outcome. In order to produce the results from this evaluation, they will write a report on CQI, which is continuous quality improvement, to see if there's any feedbacks from the students as well as from the educator themselves in order to make revision to their assessments method or even make revision to the style of the instructional strategies. And finally, revision can be also done by going through curriculum review over a certain period of time, usually advised to be a bit, probably 2 to 3 years, a short-term review to ensure that the learning outcomes set in the beginning for the program as well for the course are able to be achieved and attained. How much has it achieved? How much has it not been achieved? And what are the ways or actions, corrective actions that can be taken in order to review and to plan for the next cycle of the program. So this is the process of OBE. Next, I would like to share within the same understanding of OBE context, we also need to refer to the MQF framework or the Malaysian qualification framework. In many countries, there will be different quality assurance and also qualification framework for education purposes. So in Malaysia, this MQF is created by the Malaysian Qualification Agency, MQA. And at this stage, we are at MQF 2.0, and we are going to have 5 clusters of learning domain or learning outcomes and 11 outcome domains. Okay, what are the 5 clusters? We can see here, the first cluster is known as the knowledge and understanding. The second cluster is the cognitive skills. The third clusters look at functional work skills. The fourth clusters look at personal and entrepreneurial skills. And finally, the fifth cluster is the ethics and professionalism. So from these 5 clusters, the curriculum designer or the institutions to design the program learning, the program educational objective, the PEO, will use these 5 clusters to set their statements for PEOs. And then when we move into the learning outcome domains, there are 11 of them. It shows the 11 different skill sets besides the knowledge and practical skills required here. These are the 11 knowledge and skill sets that a student should be able to attain by the completion of the program, whether it's the end of a 2-year program as a diploma or 3 or 4-year program as a bachelor degree and also postgraduate. So you can see from the 5 clusters, it has been expanded to 11 skill sets. So the first learning outcome is knowledge and understanding that derive from cluster 1, which is on knowledge and understanding. So from this learning outcome, we can see specific knowledge, discipline, or skill sets are learned through education process, through their teaching and learning activity in class. Second skill sets is cognitive skill sets. Cognitive look at problem solving using critical thinking skills as well as problem solving skills. So this second learning outcome domain or learning outcome 2 is cognitive skills. The third learning outcome is practical skills. It involves psychomotor skills as well as practical skills needed for organization and also for the society. So these are some of the practical skills, could be in computer labs or even science labs, that require students to gain these psychomotor skill sets. The fourth learning outcome is interpersonal skills. So we do not only create book smart graduates, we also want our graduates to able to have effective interpersonal skills. So interpersonal skills look into collaborative teamwork as well as the interaction or the interactivity between 2 people or more that the graduates are able to deal with when they go into the workplace. The fifth learning outcome, or PLO 5, is communication skills. At this learning outcome domain, we look at how information as well as knowledge and ideas, concepts are able to be delivered from one person to the other or for one group to the other. So the communication skills over here refer to the process of transmitting information, ideas from one to the other. The other skill sets involve PLO 6 or Learning Outcome 6 of digital skills. We are in the digital era right now. Graduates are able to use information and digital technologies in order to produce what they know from their classes. Okay, so digital skills here may involve creation of website, mobile apps, or even just using certain digital technologies like PowerPoint or even Word and Excel. The next learning outcome domain is numeracy skills, PLO 7. This is for enhancing or showing our quantitative and numerical abilities. Anything that you do would need some mathematics, some numeracy skills. So we also hope that every graduate of a program will also able to attain these numeracy skills. Next, we look at PLO 8 or Learning Outcome 8, which refers on leadership, autonomy, and responsibility. So at this stage, we actually look at how a graduate can able to take lead to be our future leaders, can able to make their own decisions and be responsible to their team members. And the next learning outcome looks at personal skills, which is the self-directed self-improvement life learning skills. So we see that we do not only learn when we are in the education institution, like in the university and colleges, but we learn whenever we leave, because it's a lifelong learning. We also learn in the workplace. The next learning outcome domain is entrepreneur skills. Entrepreneur skills look at the way you can start an enterprise. You're able to use this knowledge and qualities of entrepreneurship to make yourself more achievable and more able to perform and contribute to the society. Finally, the last learning outcome domain, the 11th PLO, looks at ethics and professionalism. So we also look at the ethical values, the moral values, and also the professional code of conduct in performing your duties as a graduate or as a citizen. So these are the MQF 2.0 in a Malaysia context, but you can see the different skill sets that we want our graduates to learn and acquire, and not just traditionally the knowledge and understanding learning outcome. So just to give you a brief understanding of what is PEO, PLO, and CLO, by looking at this short description of PEO as broad statements that actually describe the career and the professional development or accomplishment of the program that is preparing the graduates. It usually be assessed a few years after graduation. PLOs are statements that what the students are expected to do and to produce, which require at the end of the completion of the program. And CLO is the measurable statements of what the students are able or expected to do, are able to do by the end of individual courses. So designing learning outcomes are statements of what the learners can do and as a result of what they actually attend in the courses. Learning outcome is a statement of what the learner is expected to know, understand, and able to do. So why is it important that learning outcome is designed appropriately? Because the definition or the type of the depth of the learning that the learners are expected to achieve are able to be defined. It's also set as an objective benchmark for educators to set their assessments, whether it's formative or summative. And the educators are able to clearly communicate to the learners, to the graduates, of how the skills that can be attained upon graduation. Learning outcomes will define the coherent units of learning, the topics, the courses that can be further divided, whether it can be done in the classroom or out of the classroom. Lastly, LO serves as a guide for both instructors and learners. Before I end today's sessions, this final slides looks at the benefits of having OBE and CA to be applied by educator and learners in the higher education context. Educators were able to have a clearer goals of what a clear framework can be done for effective and relevant learning design. OBE would enable educators to improve their own assessment setting. It provides a more accurate and meaningful assessment for student learning. Besides this, by having a proper OBE process, educators can able to be more flexible in their own teaching and delivery of the course, as well as using their own styles to design assessment methods that fits to individual learners. Finally, the benefits of OBE and CA for educators is to improve or to promote a culture for continuous improvement. We are able to regularly look at our own learning outcome design, our teaching and delivery of our classes, as well as the setting of assessment methods and marking schemes. But for learners, why do you think that you need to know the OBE concepts and CA when you are in education institution or when you are in tertiary education? Learners yourself were able to have a clear expectation and understanding when they enroll in a course, because they will be given an expectation of what to learn and what to be assessed. We do not want learners to come back to us and say that I don't understand what is being taught in the class because I've not been given clear information, or the assessment or the assignment that's given is not related to what is being done in the class. So learners can be active participants by finding out the expectations and the requirement of assessment for each course before they actually go through it. Learners can also increasingly better engage with the content of the courses and be motivated to actively involve in the learning process. Learners should be active to engage and interact with your lecturers. You have to take full control over your own learning. The next benefit for learners here is relevant learning for the development of real-world skills and competencies can be gained. By understanding the learning outcome, you're able to understand what is to be expected to be learned and what is expected to be performed. Finally, learners can able to gain authentic assessments that are relevant and meaningful in the practical context, specifically for them to work in the industry later on after graduation. Therefore, this understanding of OBE and CA is not just for higher education institutions or educators. It also brings benefits to learners themselves, so that you take control. Your adult learners at this time when you're in tertiary education is no longer in the high schools or elementary schools where you actually wait for your teachers to tell you what is the class content for today. You have to take control over your own learning. You have to find out how to be more motivated to involve in constructing education. Next, we will look into my contact. So before I end and pass it back to Prof. Shah, thank you for listening to me, and hopefully you are able to beneficial from this session in a very short understanding of OBE. Usually the workshops that I conducted is about 2 to 3 days long for educators, and probably next time I will consider also giving it to the postgraduate students or even learners themselves to understand the process of OBE, because it will better help the learners themselves to be an active participants in taking control of their own learning. Thank you.
Wow, Prof, superb the way you just conducted this webinar. Was so great, so engaging, and I was just looking everything you aligned. The content which you presented was so wonderful, because we have taken the different OBE sessions, the workshops, Usually the content which you cover, they take one day to explain all these things, but you squeezed in a wonderful way that we came across all the things right from the definition. I love the way you just started with the definition, the seven key principles, and then you talked about the Malaysian national education philosophy, the frameworks, all the things, how they are connected and how they are playing important role in the PEO, the PLOs, the CLOs. And I love the way you just showed the OBE process as well, right from the planning and reviewing to the evaluation, where we have the continuous improvement, the continuous quality improvement, which is important thing for us to upgrade our curriculum, upgrade our assessment ways, and all these things. You just showed us all the way how things are connected with each other and why we are doing certain activities and what is supposed to be the outcome of it. I love the way you just talked about the traditional and the modern education system as well. That what was the previously focus and what is now the focus of us as the educator, particularly the learner centered. Whatever we do, we try to understand. And I love your one of the phrase that it is not just what we want to teach; it is about what they want, the student they want to learn. That's the great thing, that yes, they are there to learn particular things. And I love the way you just showed the different clusters, five cluster, and how does it translate into the PLOs of 11. And I love the Bloom's taxonomy, which plays a very significant role in OBE and the CA. All the these content was so great, and I enjoyed, and I was highly engaged, and it was very captivating webinar session. I knew from the beginning that you are a wonderful trainer, and you conducted for days. So I knew from the beginning that you will be doing it in such a nice manner, in such a great, and you did the same. So thank you very much for such a wonderful explanation and powerful content you shared with our audience from around the globe. But still, we have certain questions which needs your illustration and explanation in order to remove their misconception. So should we start with the first question, please?
Yes, yes, please
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, Prof, the first question they want to ask that there's a faculty member and they say that, Prof, thank you very much for such a nice elaboration. You explained it very well. And now I would like to draw your attention towards the AI, particularly nowadays. We are facing the in artificial intelligence and the technological era. So please, Prof, enlighten us. What role do technology and digital tools play in supporting the implementation of OBE and CA, and how can they be used to enhance learning and assessment? Yes, please.
Right. Thank you for this question. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. But you can see that AI is one of the digital skills that is required as one of the learning outcome domain. So as an educator, we should not be fear of technology. We should embrace them and makes the learning more experiential and meaningful, because OBE and CA is to ensure the learning outcome is fully aligned with our delivery and teaching and assessment. So AI can be a tool. AI can be a helper for educators to make the students more motivated to use technology in the classes. So it depends on which course you are teaching. For example, if I'm teaching a particular course, for example, like communication course, and AI is partly, if you don't use it, the students are using it. So we have to use them in class, but in a way that we can advise our students the consequences of it, that AIs are still machine. They would not able to differentiate what is right, what is wrong, certainly. And you have to have the skill in order to fully use this particular AI, right? But as an educator, I believe that digital skill is one of the learning outcome domain. So I would also encourage educators to apply using digital skills or AI in their teaching in order to ensure the students are able to utilize AI for performing and producing an outcome.
Yes, thank you very much for such a wonderful answer. And Prof, we had conducted was a session with the Prof regarding the Chat GPT, and what you referred is the same thing. The Prof also referred, and you also referred that we should embrace the technology rather than we are fearing out of it that what kind of threat it is posing. But we should consider the positive aspect of it, that how can it aid us and how can it support us in order to make it more effective strategies in order to deliver. And the same answer you have given as well. Thank you. And now there is one another interesting question, and they want to ask that, Prof, thank you for your wonderful presentation. And you have also mentioned in one of your the five cluster the ethical consideration. My question is, Prof, that what are the ethical and social implications of OBE and CA, and how can they help promote ethical reasoning and civic engagement among students? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you for this question. And one of the domain that's required by the Malaysian qualification agency MQA is to have this ethics and professionalism embedded for graduates. So we could see that if there are courses which involve personal values, moral values, ethical conducts, professional conduct, it will be good to be map your assessments to this ethical domain. Then you should be having essays or assessments that could show the embracement of ethics, whether it's for personal or organizational or industry context. Ethics are always required. So I believe with courses mapped to this PLO 11 will enable students to better understand their role, okay, to be ethical and to be more responsible.
Yes, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. I'm enjoying the way you are giving wonderful answers, but since we have the time constraint, I would lead to the final question, which is again very interesting question, and it is asked by the other faculty member, and they want to ask that, Prof. Thank you for your great presentation. Since you are the expert in this area of OBE, please enlighten us what are some of challenges and opportunities associated with implementing OBE and CA, since you are the expert and you have been to different workshops and webinars, and how do you see all these things in different cultural and socio-economic contexts? Please enlighten us about the different challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Haider. I believe there are challenges in doing or implementing OBE. It's not a one overnight you can actually do it. And I believe that it could be the discrepancy of perception of documentation, policy abiding, then quality assurance of teaching in our courses. So I believe that it is not easy to get educators who are from different background, different education experiences to take in OBE concept and apply them in their teaching. Because to certain people with different background or different way, when they get their education, they would feel that the lecturer is the one take control. Why are we supposed to be mapped to this 11 framework? Why is just this framework that is required? But I believe that with the aim of improving quality assurance, please do not take this as just a task to tick the box for abiding to documentation and policy requirement, but it's more of as an reflection for educators in better improving their curriculum design, their experiences in sharing with our future leaders, our learners, to ensure that we actually want them to have a clear path of directions when they are in higher education. So no doubt challenges is always there. I believe that educators have the passion of teaching and grooming young leaders, young graduates. So I believe that the challenge can be used as a motivation to improve ourselves as educators. We have to make a change ourselves in order to make a change in others.
Wow, Prof. Wonderful answer once again, and you have given a wonderful phrase for it. We must have a passion for a teaching, and that passion, actually, the challenges, they will motivate us to overcome it, and this is what educators are supposed to, that they must have the passion to deliver, they must have a passion towards their uh, a career, and what they are supposed to do it in the class, and what we are doing in terms of strategies, the delivery, and all these things. So everything is starts with the motivation, and we must have that motivation. And if we have that motivation, so definitely it is going to be translated into wonderful outcomes. And you have given a wonderful phrase of that you want to see the change, be the change as well. Everything starts from us, because we are supposed to deliver. So
Yes.
really, Prof, thank you very much for such a wonderful webinar, for wonderful explanation. We thoroughly enjoyed this session with you. You're a very competent and expert in this area, and thank you very much for sparing your precious time. And Prof, at the end of the session, we ask our each guest regarding their message to the world. So, Prof, please give your concluding remarks, as well as what is your message to the world as a speaker, author, teacher, researcher, trainer, learner, and educator. Yes, please.
I think the one word that I can share to the world right here is do not afraid of changes. The only thing that's constant is changes. So let's make a world a better place to live.
Wow, Prof,
Thank
wonderful
you.
message you have given again to the world, that really we want to contribute, and the positive contribution back to the society and feel makes us great. And this is our contribution, and this is our responsibility as well. So, really, Prof, thank you very much once again. And to the audience, please do follow our distinguished guest speaker through her research work, and you can email her for future learning and guidance. She is very generous and always ready to help people. Moreover, wonderful explanation and powerful content which the great speaker has already elaborated will help you to understand and develop your understanding regarding the OBE and the CA. So that's all we have time for today. And thank you once again, Prof. Dr. Catherine Cheng Ean Lee. And I would like to thank our audience who joined us. If you have any additional questions about information shared today, please email us or connect to the speaker directly through her email or social media account. Thank you all for your support and liking our session. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way. Please do not miss any session until next session.